Hello, I present today a new episode of Eurointegrators program. My guest today is Ambassador of France in Ukraine, Etienne de Poncins.
Good afternoon.
Hello. And Ruslana Rymarska, creator of brand Smakuli, winner of award content created by women. Hi. Your Excellency, you just started work in Ukraine this year. What is your opinion about Ukrainian-French relations, and what is your plans?
Thank you very much for inviting me. Yes, I've just arrived in Ukraine, and I've started to work immediately because the agenda is quite busy. It's very interesting to be here at this very moment in Ukraine because there is a new president, a new government, and a real will to reform this country, which is going in the right direction. So my plan is to support the Ukrainian government in its effort to reform the country, to try to get peace for the conflict in the east. So we are fully supportive of the effort of the Ukrainian government. And in addition to that, the moment is very convenient to be here because the relationships between France and Ukraine are going very well. There is a good understanding between our two presidents, between President Macron and President Zelensky. They are more or less of the same age. Both of them are very energetic persons, and they have established good communication and good contact between them. So I would say it's easy at this moment to be a French ambassador to Ukraine.
Isabelle Dumont, the previous ambassador, was quite involved in Ukrainians' different aspects, from politics to business. She was one of the jury of created by women contents. Why French embassy is supporting this project?
I will continue in the same way as my predecessor did, even if I am a man and not a woman.
It's not a problem.
So thank you for that. But it's very important because gender equality is one of the priorities of President Macron, both in the internal politics. He has devoted his mandate to improve the situation in France between men and women. And on the international spectrum, he has also done of the gender equality one of his top priority of his diplomacy. And for example, as you know, France is chairing the G7 group for this year, for this current year. And one of the takeaways from the Biarritz summit in France in end of August was gender equality. And on that occasion, a pact was adopted by the G7 members to improve the situation of the women all over the planet.
Ruslana, you became a winner last year, this year competition actually. What this award gives to you?
This award has given me an inspiration to move on. As my business is new, and when you move from scratch, sometimes your efforts go down. Sometimes even faith that you will succeed falls down. And when I found out that I am the winner of this competition, I got a second wind to move on and to believe in those goals that are essentially for the competition. I had to formulate the goals I want to achieve and then to move on to those goals. This contest gave me faith.
If possible, please tell us what happened after you was awarded, what was the main prize, and how now is your business going on?
I will be honest that I really wanted my products to be sold on the Auchan network. When this competition came up, I thought that it was necessary to submit exactly because the jury were the decision makers in Auchan. In order to make them see my brand, I would very much like to participate in this competition. One of the important benefits of being the winner was the fact that I was introduced to the responsible persons of Auchan, and we signed the agreement, and the products are already selling in the Auchan network today. It was also a very inspiring trip for me to Paris, where I met with the sponsoring companies, and I didn't think it would be so inspiring in terms of my experience gained, to see how the business in France works, and to visit the largest bank in France, Crédit Agricole. To get acquainted with how this corporate culture is built there. Yes, this is a big company, and I have a small one, but it is still a certain experience that you can strive for. This is meeting with Michel Degustin company, and when I got there, it seemed to me that I was in my own company, but many years later, because I wanted to build a business so much by the same way. And they also started like I did. They did a lot of work from the small craft company in the beginning and were able to win the loyalty and love of the buyers of their product.
Дуже багато робили на початку самі і змогли завоювати лояльність і любов покупців до свого продукту.
Issue of gender equality is included in French law, as far as I understand. Can you please tell us in a concept why it is in the law and why it is important for equal balance?
Yes, we have reinforced our own legal environment in France. It's important because it's creating, I think, new impetus to the French companies when they respect the law, and we have to be determined in that matter. You cannot just wait for things to move in the right direction. You have to be active and proactive in favoring and empowering women in the business environment, and this is why we support here through the Chamber of Commerce. Why we are supportive of this award. I want to congratulate you for having got this award last year, and we will continue this support here because we want also perhaps to demonstrate how it's important to have more women in top position in the business community.
Do you mean that you have in French law the official percentage of women which should be on top positions?
Yes, it's an ongoing process, so it's not mandatory for the moment, but there are some incentives to push companies to improve their gender balance for the top position. So the rationale behind the French legislation is to support and to convince and not to punish companies. But there are some incentive if you respect gender balance within French companies.
Ruslana, do you support this idea of gender equality on a government level?
Yes, I support and believe that the more women will be involved in decision-making, because most women work in alternate positions and work very well, the more will probably be social impact, because women are still tend to think more on long term. And what will be the impact on the environment? And my opinion is that this is correct when the balance of women in government at the state level is maintained.
Did you try with this award to go to EU cells?
I'm in a process. We participated in the exhibition, though not in Europe but in Canada. And there I met companies from Europe. Now we're in the negotiation process, but this is a long game, so it's not like today we have agreed. We now have to go through our labels for compliance, and after that it will be possible to go on the stage of discussing the commercial terms. And for now we have to find out, do we generally feed the ingredients in compliance with all their requirements.
Чи ми взагалі підходимо за інгредієнтами, за дотриманням всіх вимог?
Your Excellency, your president, Mr. Macron, is doing a lot in order to stop active phase of war on Donbass. What is your opinion about the situation there? Would it be possible to stop this active phase? You've been in Mariupol last week. What do you think about the situation in the east?
Yes, you are right saying that my president is doing a lot to try to find a solution for the conflict in the east, in Donbass region. is devoting a lot of time, a lot of energy, consulting with Chancellor Merkel, with President Putin, and with President Zelensky to organize as soon as possible a Normandy format summit in Paris. We are reasonably optimistic that this summit could take place quite soon. There was some conditions to be fulfilled through the Minsk process. Those conditions are now almost fulfilled, and so this should open the door for a summit to take place in Normandy format. Yes.
Do you think it will happen?
I think it will happen, yes, definitely. No date, but there is really a will for all the parties to have this summit soon and to end this terrible conflict in the East, which is not a frozen conflict, as sometimes we can hear in the international press. It's not frozen at all. It's an ongoing conflict with casualties, and I want to pay tribute to the Ukrainian soldiers who are dying not on a daily basis but on a monthly basis. And this is a terrible pain for Ukraine. And I share this pain as a French representative. I was in Mariupol, and this was a very successful event organized by the Ukrainian authorities, because we needed to invest in the eastern part of Ukraine. There was quite a big French delegation of French companies. More than 20 French companies were represented in Mariupol. They have some projects, some very practical projects to develop economic situation in that part of your country. In Mariupol, we have signed, for example, an agreement to create a water plant facility for the city of Mariupol, because this city is in great need of getting fresh and potable, drinkable water. So this has demonstrated on a real basis how involved we are in that part of the country. And more generally, I want just to recall that French companies are the fifth investor, foreign investors in Ukraine, and we are, it depends how we calculate, but we are said to be the first foreign employer in Ukraine. You mentioned Auchan or some other French companies in the retail sector. We are very visible, and I hope, this is my plan, I hope that we will reinforce this trend in the coming months and coming weeks, because there is a lot of opportunities in Ukraine for French companies and or more generally for foreign investors.
Do you think that Russia is really ready to stop this active situation in East based on Minsk agreement?
I don't want to over-interpret, but our feeling is that yes, there is a window of opportunity at this moment to make progress in that direction. I'm not here to interpret the Russian position, but our feeling and the feeling of my president and of Chancellor Merkel also is that it's time for us, for the international community, to act and to put this conflict to an end.
Do you understand it right that French government and German government who are involved in Normandy format, they are supporting idea of Minsk agreement, Steinmeier formula and troops withdrawal, which is going on now in the East?
Yes, Minsk agreement was signed in 2015, so it's valid, and it includes the Steinmeier formula, so that was part of the prerequisites for having a summit of Normandy format.
Did you try to sell your products in the eastern Ukraine? Where is actually your distribution?
Our model mainly deals with the network stores. It's little ones like Ekolavka or retail ones like Auchan. We have signed an agreement with the Auchan network, so our products are sold now in the East too. Novus simply doesn't have a representative offices in Kharkiv, in Dnipro. The farthest point is Mykolaiv, and they do not move any further.
Харкові, в Дніпрі, там найдальша точка – це Миколаїв, і так якось вони далі туди не рухаються.
Recently was some speech of Mr. Macron about that he is supporting integration people from Africa, but not from Bulgarian, Ukrainian networks. What does it mean?
No, I had an explanation with my colleague of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. There was misinterpretation about what the president said, and the interview was not about foreign policy. It was for internal consumption, and there was nothing negative about Ukraine, and it was not related in the proper way as it was in the press. I mean, the local Ukrainian press.
What are the next steps about competition created by women? As far as I understand, you both will participate somehow in a future project. What it will be?
Absolutely. The French Chamber of Commerce will continue to support the award for this year. So yes, this partnership is ongoing and is very successful, and the French Embassy is fully backing this competition.
You will be jury?
I will be part of the member of the jury.
You will be like ambassador of the premiere?
Yes.
Що ти хочеш побажати тим жінкам, які будуть приймати участь?
I would also like to point out that it's very pleasant that a foreign country created this award, and it shows to our country how to support women, because in fact in Ukraine there has not been such an award that honored women in business. Not just a rating, but such an award. What I would like to wish is to believe in yourself, because as I said, the award has given to me the faith to move on to my ambitious goals. And even if something goes wrong, then raise your hands and head and go further forward, because the road is always reinforced by the one who walks it. And probably you should never feel sorry for yourself and use the words like, I'm a woman, so. If we're in business, we have to be equal and competitive and think accordingly how to represent your product and your company in a best way.
You know this Me Too project, which was started in the US and then come to also in Ukraine. We even have some in our army, some incidents which were starting to expose. How it was in France? I remember Catherine Deneuve even was against.
Catherine Deneuve was against when it's going too far. She thought that it's going sometimes too far, and that we have imported some culture which is not part of the French culture. But anyway, it's going and it's going public in every sectors now. This kind of because those behaviors are clearly not acceptable, and are less and less accepted by women and by the population as a whole. And for example, now there are some new indication about the situation in the film industry, in the media industry, and this is positive, and there are more and more awareness about the situation, and in France, as it is the case in Ukraine and in other democracy in the world. Yes.
Russia was returned back to Council of Europe, and France was supporting this idea. Why?
Not only France. There was a vote of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. It's this assembly where they were not present, and now they are back. So there was a huge consensus to bring back Russia to this Parliamentary Assembly. Why? Because we think it's better to have them within the Council of Europe than outside the Council of Europe. And it is positive to protect the Russian citizen, because they will have legal recourses to the Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. So if they are not part of the Council of Europe, they could not raise and protect their own rights, I mean the right of the Russian citizen. So that was the rationale behind the decision. And why France was particularly in the front, it's because We were chairing the Council of Europe at that moment, but this presidency is ending at the end of November, so that would be for another presidency, Georgia, to take over from France. But once again, France was not isolated in that position. It was a decision supported by most of the member states of the Council of Europe.
Whom exactly did this Russian participation, I mean prisoner, whom it helped? Because are you sure Russia is fulfilling what is needed by European institution about prisoners?
Not completely, but if they are outside the legal framework of the Council of Europe, we can be certain that the right of the Russian citizen will not be protected as they are if they are member of the Council of Europe. Yeah.
It was a big arrests in the streets of Moscow this year because of before election of local city council. Does Council of Europe help that?
At least the Russian citizens have the possibility to make an appeal to the Council of Europe Court of Human Rights, and this is possible because Russia is a member of the Council of Europe.
Okay. Thank you, Your Excellency,
for
answering tough questions sometimes, for joining our program. Thanks, Ruslana, for you to come to us. Thanks to all who watched us. See you next week.